I do consider myself, having been born in 1970, to be the first generation to benefit from the civil rights movement, from the legacy of all of the work of so many people that went into changing the laws in this country so that people like me could have an opportunity to be sitting here before you today.
That was Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson during her Supreme Court confirmation hearing. And joining me now are Melissa Murray, MSNBC legal analyst and former clerk to Judge Sonia Sotomayor, and Dana Bowen Matthew, dean and professor at George Washington University Law School. Welcome to you both. Dana, what moment stood out to you the most?
Well, the one that we just saw, I share Senator Booker's view that I will not let anyone steal the joy of this moment. You know, when Judge Jackson referenced Constance Baker Motley in her introduction, she was making a statement about the fact that she is going to be the first woman to ascend to the Supreme Court that is Black. But she's not the first qualified woman, not by far. The first Black woman lawyer was Charlotte Ray. That was 150 years ago. She became the first lawyer admitted to the bar in the United States. And Jane Matilda Bolin, 83 years ago, became the first Black woman judge. Judge Constance Baker Motley, who Judge Jackson referred to in her opening statement, was able to argue 9 cases before the Supreme Court. 60 years ago, Judge Julia Cooper Mack wrote 400 opinions as an appellate federal court judge. None of these Black women ascended to the bench. It is, I think, an irony that some say affirmative action is the reason that Judge Jackson is ascending. In my view, it's affirmative action that kept Black women off the court for so many centuries. And it isn't until now, 2022, that we will experience this triumph.
So, Melissa, to the point about what some may be saying out there, I know you caught that side eye. Judge Jackson gave some Republicans, you know the look. I know it well. I can tell you, every black man in America knows that look very well. What were you thinking during their questioning of her when you would see that look come on her face?
Well, I think you're exactly right, Michael. This is a look that most Black people in professional America know well, that moment where you pause and your better angels and the ancestors whisper in your ear and tell you, don't risk it all for this, and you hold back. But I will say she was incredibly composed. That moment where she was somewhat tearful with Senator Booker was a sort of rare moment of vulnerability, and it came after what was an incredible barrage of disrespectful questions that really had no point other than to score political pot shots. So again, this is perhaps the most superlative nominee we have seen in recent years. She is eminently qualified, and what we saw were the Republicans really just acting like jerks, just being blatantly disrespectful to her, asking questions that really had no point, trying to manufacture objections so that they could not vote for her now, even though a year ago they voted for her when she was nominated to the circuit court. So a lot of political theater, but in the middle of it all, the real star who on center stage was Judge Jackson herself.
Dana, you just recited a few of the Black women legal pioneers in the law, but only 5% of first-year law students are Black women. And just over 3% are associates in law firms, and less than 1% are partners. What does that say about the historic nature of this nomination and what it may portend for the future?
It says volumes, to be honest, that we now have someone to show that it can be done. We now have an example of the ceilings that can be broken against all of the odds. As Melissa said, the composure, the professionalism, no notes, hours upon hours of questioning and total recall of cases, whether they were antitrust law, Second Amendment, Fourth Amendment, First Amendment cases. This is a judge with an enormous command and fund of knowledge, and she makes us all proud and stands as an example to all of the Black women in my circles that we also can do it. To the young girls that are just now deciding what their goals are, you can do this too. It has such historic meaning and will, for, I think, decades to come, inspire us all.
So, Melissa, to Dana's point, the 19th spoke to Black women throughout the country after the hearings. One drew on her own experience as an attorney, saying, quote, "You do all the things that you're supposed to do. You go to the right schools, and still you can be treated like somebody who is an interloper and who has no right to sit in the seat that she's getting." Can you relate to what Judge Jackson went through this week?
Undoubtedly. I think Dana can relate to this as well. As Black women in academia, we are often the only ones in the room. When I was the interim dean at Berkeley Law, I was the first Black woman to lead a top 20 law school at that time. So we're always, I think, first, but the most important thing is that we're not last. So Dana is among the many Black women deans who have been appointed in recent years. I'm in the wake of my appointment as interim dean. So this is just expanding exponentially. And Judge Jackson is only the tip of the iceberg. She is going to inspire and influence the next generation of Black women lawyers, and it's going to be a phenomenal generation. She's already beginning to do this work. She talked about the letters she's received from young Black girls. She's truly going to be an inspiration. And really, I think we're going to see the Ketanji effect going forward in the legal profession.
So Dana, listen for a moment to what Judge Jackson said about being a role model. Take a listen.
One of the things that having diverse members of the court does is it provides for the opportunity for role models. Since I was nominated to this position, I have received so many notes and letters and photos from little girls around the country who tell me that they are so excited for this opportunity and that they have thought about the law in new ways because I am a woman, because I am a Black woman.
How do you react to that? How do you process that?
I'm proud. I'm excited. I'm moved. She inspires me. Today I met with a group called the Coalition of 100 Black Women, and we were talking about topics completely apart, but we could not help ourselves but to celebrate for a few moments the accomplishments and the achievements of us all. And you know why? Again, it's because we are aware that this is an example of the kind of talent, the kind of qualifications, the kind of expertise that has been overlooked for centuries. She is not the first that is qualified. She is not the first that could break these barriers. She's been the first that has been allowed to. And I like what Melissa said. This is just the tip of the iceberg.
Melissa Murray and Dana Bowen Matthew, thank you both. Really, really appreciate it. Next, could the wife of a Supreme Court justice be the next witness subpoenaed by the January 6th committee?